We are. Are we here? Good morning. And my mistake. Good evening. Welcome to Sunday Night Live, Monday Morning Live, here on Planet Earth Live. At this moment, which seems to be lasting, it's a lasting moment. Anyway, good morning and welcome to Sunday Night Live in North America, South America, um, and the this side of the world, the Asia. Um, so, anyway, I had a little trouble here with the things, but obviously it's over. So we're going to talk about what we're doing today. We need that guy there. And then we need no. There we go. Okay, but let's get rid of this. All right, cool. Good morning. Let's get started with Sunday Night Live. Just to remind everyone what our format is here. I'm going to answer questions that have been pre-submitted um, on in various places. The website, I think you can do it on Instagram or on Facebook, maybe. So we have those questions. That we're going to answer for the first hour, and then the second hour we'll answer questions that arise spontaneously. Let's see who's popping up in here. All right. How come I can't see? Everything's good. So Mike and everything's good. All right. How come I can't see the chats? Why can't I see the chats? Okay, here we go. Wow. Shoo, 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 shoo. Okay, here we are. Wonderful. Um, okay. So anyway, that's the format, and then I'm gonna answer the questions as best as possible, considering the information that's given to me in the question. Um, and the only problem there is that I can't interact. I can't clarify what someone means or if this has happened or that has happened. So there's some limitations to it, which is one of the reasons we have our teaching sessions on in our groups. So we have the three groups: the health and healing group, um, we have the parasite group, and then we have the CFC group. And CFCs are chronically fermenting cells, which are natural adaptive processes that happen in our body all the time, and they're erroneously and um, what's the word? Yeah. Anyway, referred to as cancer. All right. So, and we all know that cancer is just an astrological sign. Has nothing to do with the reality of any substance. I'm not saying that there's no substance of astrology. I think it's absolutely powerful stuff, but that's not what we find in our bodies as lumps and bumps. Okay, we find chronically fermenting cells. Okay, so that's it. So we have three groups: the CFC group, the parasite group, and the health and healing group. And in those groups, I'll be teaching about a certain particular subject that may be relevant to the group, and then we'll um, have questions, and that way we can directly discuss things, right? So if I say, well, I'm not clear about this, did you do this, or did that happen, or so then I can clarify it, and we can have a much more appropriate response to these questions. And your questions are amazing, and they're fantastic, and you know, I there we go. Yeah, it's hard to get all this together. Um, So that's it. And then just as a reminder, um, we're streaming, I guess, on multiple platforms. So, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Rumble, YouTube, all of that will be at Dr. Thomas Lodi, at Dr. Thomas Lodi, Dr. Thomas Lodi. And then X and TikTok will be on at Dr. Thomas Lodi, MD. Okay, and that you can find it. Or you can go to the website and our website, drlodi.com, and you'll find it there. I think you put /live and you can get it. All right. And then they'll all be recorded and replayed and available to be viewed anytime afterwards. There we go. Is that cool? All right, cool. All right, very good. So let's get started. Um, yeah, okay, very good. So I'm seeing some things get posted up here. There you go. Hard to get that centered, but yeah. So, and by the way, listen, if anyone is dealing with CFCs right now, if you have uh, 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 a problem, you have tumors, or you have anything that with CFCs, and you're in trouble. You've had several opinions, and they all seem to be the same opinion, and the opinions are all dreadful. Um, and you need some help. There's a beautiful, beautiful lifesaver thrown in the middle of the ocean of this madness called an oasis of healing. And we're located in Arizona, right around the Phoenix area, a place called Mesa. And we've been doing this for about 21 years there. So I started that, formed that right after I moved from New York in 2004. Worked here and there with a couple of doctors, and then opened our center. So our center's been there, and it's right now um, it's got the cumulative experience of 21 years. And by the way, the one of the things I'm looking for over here in the eastern part of the world, and I've already looked in Europe and South America, as I'm looking for um, a center that does everything from taking care of what you eat and how you breathe, when you go to sleep, how to prepare food, what is food, uh, d- you know, um, prayer, meditation, as well as interventions like intravenous vitamin C, intravenous ozone. If chemotherapy is necessary, we give it in low doses with insulin. Um, uh, Referred to in the conventional literature as metronomic chemotherapy. So it's if a doctor was to tell you that, well, that's not the standard to use low doses, it certainly is. Certainly is. Tell your doctor to look up um, metronomic chemotherapy, like the word metronome. Look up metronomic chemotherapy, and they'll find that it's continuous low doses rather than really large, maximally tolerated doses given every 2 to 3 weeks once you can finally recover from it. So rather than that, smaller doses. And it turns out that the smaller doses actually um, block growth of tumors because they target the endothelial cells, which are the blood vessels. And so if you don't have new blood vessels, you can't grow. And that's pretty much what happens um, with the low dose. And the other thing that happens with low dose is because it's low and it doesn't pound the immune system, it actually stimulates it. And so you can stimulate an immune response. So it works out to be really an amazing way to deal with it if you have to deal with it. Yeah, I mean, if you have to, if there's a need for that. So there's, um, you know, remember, integrative oncology or integrative medicine, integrative holistic therapies, etc. All of that means that we've taken the best of all disciplines, from Ayurvedic to traditional Chinese to naturopathic medicine to um, uh, the indigenous medicines of North America, of Africa, of Europe, of Australia, of New Zealand, all these indigenous uh, medical disciplines or healing disciplines. So we take the best of all and use them where appropriately, right? So we wouldn't consider going to an herbalist if our leg was broken or a baby was coming out feet first, right? So the idea is to know about them all and then to use them appropriately, okay? Because that's the balancing act. That's the art of medicine. So anyway, that's what integrative oncology is. So we do a little bit of everything when necessary. Radiation, yeah, under certain circumstances. Surgery, of course, under certain circumstances. But they're not standard therapies required, all right? Yeah. So I haven't found any place, anywhere in the world that does it except for an Oasis of Healing in Arizona. And, you know, that's pretty nice. I'm really nice to know that because, I mean, it's nice that there's one place, but we've got to make more. We've got to have more. So what I'm going to be doing is training at our Institute of Integrative Oncology out of Singapore. We'll be training people to, we'll be training doctors in integrative oncology, and we'll have special groups, you know, like our private groups, for us all to, you know, interact on a different level because it would be, you know, practitioners rather than, you know, members or patients. All right, so yeah, so like Brad here has noted, it's not only difficult to find it in single center, it's impossible, right? So you have Hippocrates, which is fantastic on the one end, but on the other, it's not altogether cohesive. And then you've got other centers that are they're strictly interventional, where you go in and you just get IVs and things like that. But so in each situation, you're ignoring a part of our being, because remember, humans are mind, body, spirit complexes. It's not that we have a mind, we have a body, and we have a spirit. Um, it's not like that. They're interwoven aspects of one, um, of one thing called, in some disciplines called the Atman, or the self. But anyway, so that's what we are, and we can't ignore it. You can't ignore someone's emotions, you know, their fears, their regrets. You can't ignore that and just work on their vitamin C levels. You know, that's not so, that doesn't happen, because their vitamin C levels, all of that will be influenced directly by their emotions. And so we've got to bring it all together. We've got to look at it all together. All right. So anyway, if that's happening with you right now, give us a call, 480-834-5414, right? And that's our number. It has been for a long time. That's why I remember it, because it's the original number. And Oasis of Healing. Okay. So we're happy to see you, and we will take care of you. You know, and that it can present a problem for people that live far away in Europe or um, South America, or South Africa, South America, New Zealand, you know, and so, um, but unfortunately, there's no other place that I can find of. And if you know of any, please let me know, because you know, a lot of people who are interested and need that kind of care. All right. These are fantastic questions. All right. So I'm gonna get. Thank you so much, Woody. Thank you, everyone. I've Let's get started with the questions that were submitted this week. All right, and the first one is from Peter, and the topic is alternative CFC therapies. Although, come on, Peter, you got to use the proper word. It's CFCs, chronically fermenting cells. Okay, it's not alternative. Virgo centers, alternative. Gemini centers, alternative. Leo centers, alternative. Cancer centers. It's alternative CFC centers. Dear Dr. Lodi, do you think fasting is a good idea when you have cachexia? Thank you very much, Peter. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. If you have cachexia, and for all those who might not understand the term, cachexia is when the body has basically used up its stored nutrients, in terms of fat and, muscle glycogen, liver glycogen, and is now consuming itself. Your body's consuming muscle and organs. And yeah, so at that time, you don't fast because continue, you'll just contribute to the problem. So cachexia can also be known as, it's also something that's called starvation. All right, so no. So when someone has cachexia, they need to work. That's a whole different process, right? Um, so in order to do a water fast, um, you've got to correct any deficiencies in nutrients that you have, and try to eliminate any of the excesses and toxins. And that's part of what the fasting does. But you need to be well nourished, or nourished enough to be able to rely on your internal reserves to be, like fat and low fat, to be broken down as fuel so that you can stay alive. And then while you're fasting, your body, because you're just getting water, your body does not having to deal with any of the exogenous sources of unnatural appetites, and it can just rely on its own internal innate divine intelligence, and just reshape, um, uh, with molecular surgery and precision, reshape the body and give you a new body. Okay, but cachexia, you have to correct the malnourishment first. So no, Peter, the answer is it's not. It's would be the absolutely wrong approach. Michelle, breast CFCs. The doctor that prescribed high-dose mebendazole and ivermectin told me to discontinue vitamin C and NAC because they cancel out the activity of ivermectin and mebendazole. Is that true? Absolutely not true. Doctor, are you on? Because let's talk about this. Tell me what mechanism you've imagined could be, where vitamin C would be, what's the word? Canceling out the activity of ivermectin. Not at all. It's not true. So, Michelle, both ivermectin, mebendazole, and even the other one like closamide, praziquantel, propanol, palmoate, any of those antihelminthics they have different molecular targets, different molecular actions on different molecular parts of system, of biochemical systems within cells, and in bodies, and they have nothing, and are not affected by, or what's the word? Um, I just got distracted because Brad here says to look up Utopia Wellness. I will. I mean, I will if I can remember that. Hammy, please write that down somewhere so I can look that up later. If that's the center, that's fantastic. I'd love to connect with them. Um, so anyway, and with vitamin C, what's it doing? Vitamin C does what it always does. It's an electron carrier. It's what they call an antioxidant. It's what they call a reducing a substance, and it donates electrons. And where it donates an electron will determine the effect. So if it donates an electron to a molecule or atom that's lacking an electron, which is known as an oxidant or a free radical, then it will neutralize it. If it donates that electron to iron or copper in ick states, cuprous or ferric state. It'll turn it into ferrous or cuprous. Um, and then that will generate the production of hydrogen peroxide, and it will be an oxidative response. All right. But we've been doing this for years, and there's no interference between, and there's no, I can't, there's not even an imagined mechanism for that. So, Michelle, the answer is absolutely not. Okay, and here's a Juanita. Topic is other. I had a fall and a brain bleed at 41. My kidney and bladders now urinate 24/7 ever since. Is that my antidiuretic hormone not switching off at night? I get up 5 times a night, 98% fruit and raw living diet. Yeah. I mean, if it happened right as a result of that fall and you had a brain bleed, you had some brain trauma, sure, because the pituitary produces this hormone. And yeah, but this is when at the age of 41, I'm imagining you're a lot older now. So wow, how has that been? That how have you been surviving all this time? That means you've got to drink a lot of water and electrolytes. You've got to, I mean, green juices and other things that are going to give you natural minerals. You're gonna have to drink a lot of it just to stay hydrated and nourished. That sounds incredible. What a problem. Yeah, and I can't really think of any other mechanism in the brain from brain trauma that would affect that. Our urinating there's many factors that go into urinating. That's one particular factor out of the brain. But the kidneys play a role, obviously. The heart plays a role. It produces a natriuretic hormone. Um, the your blood volume. How much? If you're whether or not you're dehydrated. Um, and of course your kidney function. So there are many different um, factors that result in us having the ability to urinate. And the one in the brain is the antidiuretic hormone produced by the pituitary gland. So how are you dealing with that? I'd be, Michelle, why don't you join our Juanita, why don't you join our health and healing group? Go to drlodi.com and the health and healing group. And then we can meet every other week, because I'd love to know what's going on with you and see if we can help you resolve that, because that's crazy. I mean, I'm not sure how you've dealt with that all these years. That's insane. But congratulations, and you're obviously a powerful person, and you've got a lot of pizzazz, and you're going to get through this clearly. But so what? Yeah, join us so we can talk about it. I've never run into someone going through this. So I'm really amazed. Okay, Christy, the topic is diabetes. I've been following you for a while, and which I've been looking for many ways to improve my health. And that's a question. I've been looking, I've been following you for a while, and which I've been looking for ways to improve my health. Okay, so amazing, this stuff. Um, so I guess the question really is ways to improve your health, and that's a beautiful question. And so join the health and healing group, because that's what we talk about. That's what we deal with all the time. And then we can meet, in private Zooms, our small groups, every other week. And if you're in Europe, of course, it's every Saturday at around 10 a.m. Which is 4 p.m. my time, on Saturdays. Um, and then you have access to all the webinars, etc. So it's well worth it. But to improve health, what do we have to do? We have to realize that health is compromised. Health is the consequence of living within your biological requirements, your biological parameters. Uh, so we all have specific, non-negotiable biological requirements, and if being human, we have psychological requirements as well. Spiritual, you don't have to worry about because the spirit is untouchable. It's uh, not touchable. The only problem comes in is our ability to um, not have the spiritual aspect of our being blocked by our minds and our um, uh, uh, the uh, symptoms of an unbalanced body, which could be pain and all sorts of things. So they block our spiritual condition or awareness, but the spirit's already perfect, so you can't mess with it. So when all of our biological requirements are being made, that means we're having all the nutrients we need, which includes oxygen, which includes all that stuff, and no excesses, and we've eliminated all toxins. Then we're only ingesting uh, food or substances that are appropriate for humans, called human food. But that's not it. It's not just what we're eating and drinking. It's also when do we go to sleep? It's how do we live our days? It's how do we interact with others? It's what's going on with our mind. How crazy is our mind? Because we're all crazy. Yeah, we're all crazy. You know that. Everyone knows that. You close your mouth, and when you close your mouth, you're going to find madness, right? You can't keep that mind still. It's going to flop from here to there, from here to there, and there's nothing connecting the dots. Okay. It's like a fish on the beach flopping around. Okay, so that's the other part of restoring or gaining health, and that is to control the mad woman or madman or whatever we have inside of there. Yeah, so Christy, usually, and this actually goes for everyone. The beginning of the journey for healing is to eliminate the toxins, the waste. All right, because if we're still swimming in toxins and waste, first of all, we're not going to even clearly be able to do the things we need to do, but we're also preventing health from being established because of if you're standing in, uh, you know, for example, if you're in the bathroom and your toilet's overflowed, you've got to take care of that first. So you got to get rid of all that stuff, and that's what we're talking about. So we get rid of all the toxins, and we clean out, and that involves several things. It involves, not only avoiding the ingestion of them, um, but doing a juice cleanse, um, the appropriate juice cleanse, where you're drinking like 3 liters a day, 3 quarts a day, and just drinking and peeing and drinking and peeing, and you're just basically cleaning out the water in the aquarium. Right, colon hydrotherapy or enemas, lymphatic therapies, which you can do. You don't need to go to anyone for these. You can do them yourselves. You can do enemas. You can't do a colonic, so you could go to a colon hydrotherapist. But lymphatics are basically, they're right there next to the muscles. I mean, as the muscles contract, they help the lymphatics contract. So by just staying active and there's specialized movement for lymphatic to improve lymphatic circulation and drainage. So it's all of that. It's getting proper sleep, proper movement, all that. So that's the restoration of health. So it's a complete mind, body, spirit undertaking. And what video is not playing? Somebody, Joe, said on and Facebook said the video is not playing. I'm not sure. Uh, you mean the live stream here's not playing? Anyway, well, I hope Hammy or someone is taking care of that. Hi, Lena. Okay, so okay, this is from D. Let's see how we doing with time. Good. This is from D, and the topic is other. And hello, Dr. Lodi team. I have a dear friend whose daughter wanted to be a vet and brought home strays. Had all kinds of pets, and fast forward years later, mom has diverticulosis, which in turn is affecting her brain or memory for most part. Saw where sometimes metronidazole is used as there are parasites involved, an antibiotic. I think it was. They want to put her in a care. I like that. She, instead of the word care home, she has careless home. Yeah. And because of the memory issues, think she has dementia. And the government like to have pensions coming back to them. This is done in North America quite a bit. Wondering what her best options are for parasites. And they need to be taken continuously, or cycles like 5 days on and 4 days off. She is 65 and overweight with very limited options as far as food intake. But I find the topic diverticulosis is not spoken of very often. Yet it hits in the 50s quite a bit. Huge unspoken issue. I know she can't be repaired and live. Anyway, so let's try to jump forward. This is a long question. Any help or advice would be welcome, as I will be going with her to future doctor appointments. I know they usually have to do, they love to do colonoscopy and surgery, but hoping we can head it off this time. My favorite parasite is fenbendazole. So I feel the best advice we could get from Dr. Lodi, it's nice to see more education on diverticulosis. Okay, well, D, that's all right. Several things. First of all, diverticulosis. Let's talk about that. Is a diverticuli is an outpocketing of, or I mean, it's kind of goes. It's kind of like an invagination in the wall of the gut, the wall in the colon. So in the colon is, it's got the smooth muscle and the mucosa and all that, and then there's an impide, like a little crypt. And when you have those, or when those have developed, it's called diverticulosis. And osis means condition of, for example, ketosis is a condition of having ketones, extra ketones in your blood. Tuberculosis, it's a condition of having a problem with these little organisms. And anyway, so diverticulosis is that there's diverticuli in the colon, and it can become diverticulitis, which means inflammation, if those little crypts get filled with something and blocked off, and it gets inflamed, and that can be painful. But it comes from, it's very clear what it comes from. It comes from eating non-human food, from eating food that doesn't have fiber. And fiber is what plants, it's the skeleton of plants. It's what they're made of. Okay, it's what holds them together. It's their connective tissue, right? And it has lots of nutrient value as well. But for us, it's undigestible. Well, there's two kinds of fiber. There's soluble and insoluble. So the soluble we can deal with. We have gut bacteria that can convert soluble fibers in our colon to short-chain fatty acids. Whereas the insoluble fiber, which is cellulose, we just basically don't have the enzyme capacity to break that down. So it comes in kind of like a broom and sweeps things up. And that's what it does. And it adds bulk, and it absorbs toxins. It has It absorbs toxins. It absorbs excesses in our nutrient intake. So it has a very powerful role in our health, our physiology. And so when someone's not eating that, they're not eating plants or not enough plants. Um, their their uh, their apparatus, their peristalsis, the process of moving things along in the gut, kind of it's kind of like if you ever see clothes in a dryer, it looks like it's going, and you don't get a lot of propulsion and movement, and you wind up getting these little pockets between the muscles, right? That's what it comes from. And it is resolved by eating fiber, by eating plants. That's really not any more complicated than that. And then you talked about many things, but one thing you mentioned is that that's who's she, your friend. I have a dear friend whose daughter wanted to be a vet, and years later, her mom. Okay. So anyway, okay. So the mother of your friend, um, dementia, but you also mentioned uh, she's overweight, meaning she's obese. And I know the word obese is used, and a lot of people don't like that, but they like less the word fat. The people don't want to be called fat anymore. We've now called people that have excess adipose tissue um, big, and I'm not sure what that means, because big is big. I mean, big. Someone who's 8 foot tall, that's big, or even a 6'5" person is big. That house is big. But if someone has increased adipose tissue, I wouldn't call that big. All right. So, but anyway, that's our absurd attempt to not offend each other. And of course, we shouldn't offend each other. We should love and respect each other. And so, in the East, like in India, when they greet, they say namaste, meaning I recognize the divinity within me to recognize the divinity with you. And if you have a problem with the idea of divinity, where do you think we came from? What do you think we are? We emanate from the most divine. Okay, so and then in Thailand it's sawadee. In Japan it's hajimemashite, or uh, oshisashiburi, or something like that. But anyway, we're acknowledging. So we should not be offensive to each other by any means. We should be respectful, loving to each other. However, we should also have the respect for each other to speak the truth. Because when we speak lies to each other, do we accomplish anything? Do we help each other? We don't, right? Um, if someone comes up to you, a friend or anyone, who says, how do I look? And you look at them and they look really sick and not, you don't say you look great. That's not going to help them, because if they're really inquiring about how they look, tell the truth. We make up something. All right. So it doesn't make there. Hi, Gina from Ontario, and Rick, Rosie from New Jersey. Oh yeah, you guys are all over. And Julie, no one believes you. I believe you. So we deserve, I mean, to respect and honor each other is to tell each other the truth. All right. So there's another word we can use for someone who's overweight. Overweight is not because you had drank too much water or because your muscles are big. We don't usually cause a guy that's bulked out like that overweight, although we should. Um, uh, but it's usually people that have excess adipose tissue, fat tissue. And in the previous vernacular that was accepted in the American or in the English language was to say someone is fat. Now that's become derogatory, so now we say they're big, which is a ridiculous thing. So we could just say clearly unhealthy. But anyway, to speak the truth to each other is respecting each other. Okay, so I'm not talking about offending. I'm talking about speaking the truth, right? How did I sound today? Well, I could hear you quite well, but your tone was a little bit off. What do you mean my tone was? Your tone was off. I mean, you see. So if someone is doing that, then you just say, okay, sorry, I'll talk to you later, if they don't want to hear the truth. But there's a ways of telling the truth. So please just have the respect for each other to tell the truth. All right. Now, um, there are, of course, minor situations where, someone comes in, they're all excited about their new blouse and they go, "How does it look?" You don't have to say, "Wow, that's terrible." You say, "Great, great. How do you feel with it? You feel good wearing it?" You can turn it around to that. But there's no, but I mean when we're conveying information that is important, essential, critical, or uh, just part of our. So, all right. So that's it. So she's overweight, so it means she's eating too much. Okay, which so she's eating too much, obviously, of food that's resulting in diverticulosis, right? Okay, which means non-plant food. So we know that already. And she's got memory loss, and they're calling it dementia. You can call it these things anything you want. Remember, diagnoses are putting a name on a process, and a process is a verb. Eating, sleeping, walking, insulin resist on my cells are insulin resistant, meaning that as my cells metabolize, they continue to produce less and less insulin receptors. All right, and they're doing that as a response to the fact that because of my eating habits. Uh, I had too much glucose in my blood. It was my body was adapting and adapting to that. So it's a process that's ongoing. It's not a thing that they call diabetes. It's a process. Um, and arthritis is not. They're saying it's a thing. You have this thing, arthritis. No, there's inflammation, chronic inflammation, occurring in the joints of your body. So instead of giving a name of a thing, it's not a thing. It's this process. The question is how. What's going on? What's causing the inflammation? And that's where you start. But anyway, um, so if she's dementia and memory issues and all that, she's 65, so she's gone through menopause. So there's a lot of things she needs to do. First of all, get detoxify. You would be shocked at uh, what happens with dementia. Let me give you an idea of how fragile our cognitive abilities are. Um, and this happens many times in the emergency room. And, I've seen it hundreds of times. And that is, someone comes in and they bring in their mother or their father, and they say, or their uncle, or their grandfather, and they say, the last few days they've not been right. I really think they've got dementia. Now, there's just to let you know, there's a difference between dementia and delirium. Delirium is usually an acute cognitive chaos, whereas dementia means that it's been going on a while. It's okay. So delirium, so they bring this person in, and they're either like unable to communicate, or they're communicating in very nonsensical ways and all that. And what's very amazing is, in a majority of these people, after their IV, they're saying, "Oh, they come back. They were dehydrated." We don't realize the profound effect of chronic dehydration has on all of the functions of our body, but particularly the one that you can notice is in the brain. Um, um, yeah. Um, so that's one. But so now imagine this. Imagine you're living a life where that has resulted in you accumulating a lot of toxins in your body. Well, when your body includes your head and includes your brain, when your brain has been um, intoxicated with toxins, um, clearly think about it. If you're putting a lot of toxins in a system, in a biological system, that impairs normal functioning, because the toxins are in the way, or they're blocking something. And so the normal healthy physiology cannot occur because of toxins, toxic overload, right? And that's basically what happens to all of us, and that results in the phenomenon we have called aging, as well as all these condition, these adaptive responses. So our body is adapting to the fact that whatever we're doing, whether we're living in a place that is not compatible with our biology, such as places in the world where it snows, where it gets freezing. All right. Um, because if you go out in the forest in a place that's freezing, or in the tundra, whatever, you're going to find organisms that are there, that are naturally there, who are adapted to, who arose out of that biological niche. They're adapted for it. We're not. Without the assistance of all sorts of stuff coming into us, and shelters and stuff like that, we would not stay around. All right. So where are we adapted to? We're adapted to the tropics and subtropics. That's where we're adapted to. That's where our physiology works. That's our pond. Every frog has a pond. Our pond is the tropics and subtropics. All right. So being in extremes outside of that is one way of setting the body out of balance. But then we accumulate food, we accumulate it in our toxins. Anyway, so we accumulate these toxins. It affects our brain function, and that's it. So I would call what we're calling dementia and even delirium as acute toxicity or chronic toxicity. So to take care of then we look at these as all as different things. There's no different things. There's a process going on that includes what we notice as diverticulosis. What we notice as obesity, what we notice as the cognitive decline, uh, and whatever else. I'm sure there's other things. There might be, and very likely to be, indigestion, constipation, uh, blood sugar imbalances. There's all sorts of stuff going on. And now you put on top of that, you put in the fact that she's gone through menopause, so she's now her ovaries are no longer producing estrogen, and so there's all kinds of imbalances there. Let me put this on. It's a little too cold. All right. And they took her driver's license away. Yeah, okay. So anyway, there's no need for colonoscopies or surgery or anything. You just got to get healthy. You just got to do a prolonged cleanse, like we were talking about. A juice cleanse: celery, cucumber, uh, kale, and spinach, lemon, and apple. Or you can add whatever you want to that. It's a good foundation to give you, nutrients that you need. Um, and so she drinks, and you can add what you want to make it delicious. She's got to like it. Add carrots or beets or whatever you want, but get those other fundamentals, and drink, and only drink that, like have her drink 2 to 3 quarts a day, and nothing else. No solid food. Remember, this is not fasting. Water is fasting. This is feasting, because you're getting more nutrients in 1 quart than the average person gets in 6 months, because it's this much, vegetables, this volume of vegetation. Start with that. Let's clean that out, and you're going to see that a lot of these what you've been noticing will start to resolve just with that. Now, will she need chelation? Will she need, and then we've got to get her nutrients up. Does she have enough ascorbate, vitamin C, D, vitamin D? So so that's correcting deficiencies. So when we've cleansed and then correct deficiencies, and we've already stopped with the excesses, and now when we start eating after the cleanse, we're going to eat foods that's human food that can be digested and assimilated and turned into human flesh and blood and energy. That's what we're looking for. All right. And by the way, that doesn't happen with whipped cream, Twinkies, uh, uh, KFC. You all know KFC, right? Uh, that's this place that used to sell chickens. I'm not sure what they sell anymore, but it's still fried and it's still finger looking good. Um, KFC actually means killing friendly chickens. They didn't want to tell you that, so they just call it KFC. Well, that's what it is, killing friendly chickens. But anyway, yeah. Now, okay, so that's it. Eat healthy, eat real human food, um, and then go to sleep. All that stuff. And then regarding fenbendazole, mebendazole, and the other ones, metronidazole, excuse me, is usually classified as an antibiotic, although it is an antiprotozoal as well, which is an antiparasitic. And then there's tinidazole and there's nitazoxanide. There are other ones as well. But anyway, rather than this battle, of battling parasites for her at this point, let's get rid of toxins. Let's start with that, and you're going to see a major, 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 major change in her everything. But she's got to stick to it. You got to do it, and you go 6 weeks with that. 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and you're going to have a new person. There's a new person. She's been sleeping, and you're going to help gently and kindly wake her up, lovingly wake her up. All right. Yeah. All right. Now, next person is Enola. And this is when I took MMS 16 years ago, or MMS 6 years ago. Anyway, Herx happened, severe, for a few years. Gut is better now. But must if made something mad. Parasites. It left my teeth hurting. Every time I eat, I feel something attacking them, your teeth. I got an abscess, tooth pulled. No, now all enamel is gone and can't recede anymore. Teeth are so small. Fillings are showing. I got beautiful teeth. I feel like I'm slowly, the word we can't use, it's fading out. Hear buzzing all the time. Hear heavy brain fog, rectal pain, hemorrhoid. Can parasites live in the hemorrhoid? During my struggle to have a bowel movement, my eyes started. I have to pace the floor and then squat. Okay. All right. So yeah, and then doxycycline. And how long do I take doxycycline? And what information is it? Scheduling an appointment with a dentist. Okay, Enola. So you took MMS and you developed a Herxheimer reaction. Now, many people are well, it's not many people. It's the whole idea of a Herxheimer reaction is misunderstood. It's basically the toxic um, residue, the, the toxicities that you're exposed to. For example, if lots of parasites are losing their ability to exist, and they're spilling their internal substances. That's what they're calling a Herxheimer reaction, and it's because people have jumped on that. So, you have to grab that word and consider it to be true for whatever kind of reaction, negative reaction they have from doing something therapeutically. All right. But it's not going to happen for a few years. I mean, you're saying this lasted for a few years, so that's not even possible to be a Herxheimer unless you have an ongoing, program where you're I'm trying to not use that word. I don't know. I can't. Isn't that amazing? We can use the words that we want to use to fucking speak English. What the hell, you know? There, because I got to watch out for being shut off or something. You know, you guys, you guys, you masters of war. If you don't know that song, find that song by Bob Dylan and get the lyrics and read them as you listen to the song called Masters of War. Anyway, they hide behind the. Anyway, it's a fantastic, incredible song. So anyway, so if these things are losing their lives, we can say it that way, and they're spilling out their toxins, yeah, that would be considered. Um, but let's not always look at that, right? Yeah, and it's circulating toxins, right? So, for example, when you're doing a water fast and the fat is being consumed for energy, well, fat contains both energy and stored toxins. So toxins are released, and yes, you can feel waves of like that, and that's what's happening with that. All right. Mm. But your teeth are hurting, so you've got to go to a biological dentist. Enola, I don't know where you are, but go to IAOMT online, IAOMT.net, I think it is, or .org, .net, .org. I don't know. Let me see. Anyway, go there and find a certified, not just a member, a certified dentist in your area. All right. It's got to be that. You can't go to a regular dentist because they'll make things worse. Worse. Just like a regular doctor makes things worse. Oh, did I hopefully offend any doctors out there? If I did, I'll tell you what we do. You and I have a private discussion, and then let's have a open debate on air for the whole world to see. Okay? Whatever you want to talk about. Because the allopathic paradigm is fantastic for trauma and severe urgent situations. Period. Um, all right, so okay. Okay, so the hemorrhoids, all this stuff again, it has to do with your eating. Again, we get back to our lifestyles. Your lifestyle is clearly resulting in the fact that you're having problems with bowel movements. You're having, you know, and what's going on in your teeth. So your toxicities include the parasites. I'm not saying that they're not part of it, but they're absolutely part of it. But it's more than just that. Don't, and that's where we get confused and misdirected. It's the Rocky and the Gang misdirection, right? So instead of restoring healthy physiology, we're chasing something, and we're going to eliminate it with weapons, pharmaceutical, completely off the track. So yeah, part of the detoxification, part of getting rid of all the toxins is eliminating parasites. So that's very important. So join our group so we can talk, because clearly your problems are very complex. Um, Although they're very simple, they really come down to one thing, just like with the previous woman. It comes down to one thing, and that's lifestyle, period. But there's all kinds of ways of approaching it. Join the Health and Healing Group. Go to drlodi.com, join the Health and Healing Group. And by the way, with regards to an Oasis of Healing, the clinic that we have in Arizona, that I have in Arizona, is there's also 1 month programs for people who just want to get their health back together. Don't necessarily have to have CFCs. All right, so now we've passed the first hour, right? So we got to skip over to the what do you call it? The spontaneous clicks. Okay, this is from Asclepius Healing. Doc, I hope you have seen the studies coming from Sumerian tablets. The findings are amazing. They are finding that parasites are passed on from the parents to the babies to create the sick emotions that the evil dark spirits feed on. And that was written in our Sumerian tablets 6,000 years ago. All right, yeah, no, actually, I have read that. I've read Zechariah Sitchin's work, which was the first one to come out, a series of books called The Earth Chronicles. And I don't remember reading anything about parasites. It talked about how the Earth came to be, how humans came to be. It's incredible, and obviously true, because you can correlate it with biblical stuff and Vedantic literature as well. It correlates. Or, I mean, it's the different words are used. Like instead of Anunnaki, we have the Eloha or Elohim. Stuff like that. But I don't remember that about parasites. But I'll have to read it again. Perhaps I missed that. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so here's Nancy, and she's saying, what if you like they are very large? Don't think that the detoxes alone will eliminate them. I have been battling this for over 2 years, and Western medicine doctors are not letting me get an appointment with an internal medicine doctor. My stool test comes back negative. 6 tubes. So they will not see me. I'm in so much pain. Wow, Nancy, I hear you, and I hear everybody out there who's dealing with this Rockefeller system that is I mean, high level advanced state sanctioned sorcery. Anyway, so whatever process it is that you have to see the internal medicine doctors, you have to go through, I guess, the GP, and they will determine that you need to see the internal medicine doctor. Well, I just to help you get some clarity here. If you saw the internal medicine doctor, you'd be extremely disappointed because they're going to say, "What? You don't have any," because they have a body of what they call knowledge, which is approved algorithms, and that's it. And when you talk to them, they don't listen. They're listening for words that are fit into their paradigm. And if you don't have those words, then they don't hear it. So in other words, if you tell them the story that you're telling here, they're going to tell you you're crazy, right? And of course, you're not going to find it in the stool because they're not hanging out in the stool. Occasionally, you'll find evidence there, but they burrow into the gut wall, into other organs, and so that's kind of an outdated, absurd way of looking. If you're looking to find them, there's something called the UPDX, Universal Parasite Diagnosis, where it's a blood test, and they use RNA and DNA technology to identify different organisms, and so that's blood tests, and that's probably the most accurate of all the tests to screen for. It's too cold now. Let me turn it off. Okay. Yeah, so detoxification alone, you're right. So if you have a parasite situation going on, detoxing alone, maybe, maybe not. You got to do a long, thorough detox. You got to be serious about it and consistent with it. You can't say, "Well, I did a juice fast for 3 days. It just didn't work." You've got to do it there. Okay. In addition, anti-parasitic medications, and you can get anti-parasitic medications. There's a lot available online. I understand. Um, my assistant can help you uh, get them. Hello at drlodi.com email. She can help you. Um, but there's a variety of ways. And actually, if you went to an internal medicine doctor and for somehow they were enlightened enough to deal with this and they said, okay, um, uh, and they wrote a prescription, it would be extremely expensive, extremely expensive. And according to the protocols that they're following, it's not prolonged the way we suggest, which is 2 to 3 weeks on, 1 week off, 2 to 3 weeks on. With significant dosing. It wouldn't be that way, so you wouldn't really get the help you want. And then if you did, it would be overly expensive. So please go, go. But join our parasite group, drlodi.com, drlodi.com. Join the parasite group, and we can meet weekly to discuss your situation, and um, and you have access to all kinds of stuff. Our Telegram groups are amazing because all the other members that are on there, they've been dealing with this for differing amounts of time, and they all have incredible knowledge and resources, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful, loving community. And it's the only community you're ever going to belong to where nobody wants anything from you except for you to be healthy and happy. That's all. Nobody wants anything. Can you imagine? Yeah, imagine it. And stop imagining and go to drlodi.com and join it. All right, so let me see what other we have here. Uh, okay, here. Lee, is it Leigh? Is that Lay? Uh, Lee? Anyway, yes, Collins. Uh, just received the BIRAD 4 on breast ultrasound. Waiting on MRI results. Didn't want a needle biopsy. Didn't? That means you did? Get it? Have it? Is it parasite in my dense tissue? Stop the BHRT in case it caused it. Bioidentical hormone replacement therapy would not cause it if done correctly. It doesn't cause that. Bioidentical hormones, biologically identical hormones, meaning that the hormones are plant derived and they're biologically identical, molecular. So in other words, they're just uh, correcting a deficit. You have a deficit in hormones if you've gone through menopause or andropause for men, and you're just replacing it with that. It's not a synthetic chemical that mimics or looks like our natural hormones, such as the progestins and the different kinds of estrogens you get that are patented. Because if they're patented, that means they're not natural. They had to have been altered in order to be patented, and they therefore are going to have a not natural response in the body. But what you're doing, so that's that. But what you're doing here is what we all have a tendency to do, and we've got to not do it. And that is, could this problem be this, the parasites? And the answer is no. There's no situation going on in our body I have to, I'll qualify this in a moment. That is the result of one thing. Our bodies are responding to an innumerable number of influences, both visible and invisible, both tactile and non-tactile. Uh, so, how can we say, is this having the effect, or is it the cumulative effect of all this? Or you don't know, so you can't say. My qualification for that is that, yeah, you get exposed to uh, radiation. There's a meltdown at a nuclear plant. You get exposed to radiation or some other thing like that. Yes. All right. Now that you can attribute the problems from that. Yeah. Or you trauma, you broke legs, or yeah. Obviously, there's the cause of that. But when we're talking about some things that are processes where you're developing a mass or something, then that is a cumulative process and has multiple variables inputting it. Okay. Now, and so also you're going along with their whole idea, lay, lay, um, and that is of diagnosing and finding that the name of a thing that you can now uh, uh, go to war with using pharmaceuticals or whatever is necessary to eliminate this thing. Because so the assumption already is that this is not you. It's not you. In your breast, there's a thing in your breast. It's an alien, and we've got to get rid of it. That's just not the reality. The reality is that your breast is adapting to its environment. And that environment includes everything from the hormones that are there, to the toxins that are there, to the nutrients that are there, to the thoughts and emotions, which have energy, which do have effect. All right. And biopsies are just not ever useful. How could I say such a crazy thing? Because what are they going to do with a biopsy? They're going to get a biopsy and they're going to give it to the pathologist who's going to look under his microscope or her microscope, and they're going to describe what kind of cells they see. Right? They're going to describe the microscopic anatomy. And then they're going to subject this specimen, this tissue, to different kinds of chemical tests to determine different properties and activities of this tissue. All right, so now the microscopic description becomes what they call a diagnosis. Invasive ductal carcinoma means it was in a duct and went through the wall, and of course it's carcinoma because of the location. But that doesn't help you at all. It doesn't tell you how you got it. It doesn't tell you how you're going to get rid of it. So it's of no value. You could have called it a banana or an egg or a curtain or a toenail, but right? And it's only helpful to the guys in the white coats, the sorcerers, who can now have the proper nomenclature to stick it onto their sales algorithm, and they know what products and services sell you. That's it. All right. I was looking at the CDC's cumulative data from 1950 to 2010. That's 60 years. 1950 to 2010. This is the CDC published CDC stuff of the mortality rates from different conditions. And the mortality rate from CFCs in that 60-year period have not changed. 60 years. And in those years, around the year 1971, one of the actors hired for the show called Richard Milhouse Nixon, 1971, he declared war on CFCs. And so that's most of the 60 years. So that we're not doing too well with that. All right. So I'm just saying, I didn't. The CDC did that. You got a problem, you know, with that information, then I don't know what to say. But that's just what it is. So what that tells me is, if we're going to follow whatever they're suggesting, we have to realize that they haven't changed that mortality rates. Well, gosh, that's kind of not the people I want helping me, because yeah. All right. So therefore, you get breast ultrasound, you get an MRI, and you want a needle what? Because you want to find what it is. So here we are, we're people on search of it, and we need things to get rid of it. It's the thing it dynamic. I found it. This is what it is. What is it? It's, I don't know, but this is what it looks like. I don't know what it is, but this is what it looks like. It's got the uh, all right. Well, let's use this weapon and that weapon, pharmaceutical weapons. It's absurd. Don't go that road. Lay, join the CFC group. drlodi.com. Join the CFC group. And this is a journey. Your journey is back to health. It's restoring health, not focusing on the tumor. Now, I had a consultation with someone yesterday. And by the way, I just want everyone to know that I do consultations again, because I stopped doing them for a while, because I thought I could be much more effective to work with large groups of people, but a lot of people still would like uh, an individual consultation, and I'm happy to do that. So yeah, just go to drlodi.com uh, and make an appointment, or hello at drlodi.com. My assistant, Fa, and she can arrange it. But anyway, I was having a consultation with this woman, and she I could see when I was talking to her that she was so full of fear that she almost couldn't hear. I mean, literally couldn't hear. It was, and I was like, I was looking at the world from her perspective, and it was like I could see me, but through a haze of dragons and monsters, and because of the sorcery. And she was told something. Somebody pronounced words upon her. It's called diagnoses. It's called fear. It's called if you don't do this, you're going to not be around. If you don't do what I say, you won't be here. All that, which are absolute lies. Absolute lies. Because the people that don't do what they're saying, how do they know what happens to them? They don't know, because they left. The doctor said, if you say, okay, I want you to do this, and then you say, I don't want to do it, and you leave. So how's the doctor going to tell you what happened to that person? Huh? But they do all the time. It's called a lie. If you're wearing a white coat, what's it called? Medical opinion? Huh? It was very interesting. I was listening to something. The one of the words, one of the uses of the word doctor is to uh, defile something, or to harm it or change it. It's deceitful, right? Oh, he doctored that up. Well, did you have that doctored? That looks doctored. Great, right? Okay, so think about it. So anyway, so you're busy looking for a thing instead of restoring your health. And you understand what's going on. So with this woman was so full of fear, and it was so tragic because she was fasting. And if someone's fasting, they're doing it. They're doing it, and she's quite a long a way on the fast, and she just couldn't really even appreciate it, because she was still paying homage. You understand? The more you focus on tumor. And if you name it, it's like if you have a, if there's a stray dog around and it comes around and stuff, but the day you name the dog, it's now part of your group, your family. Oh, that dog came around again, or Misty came around again, or Misty's here too. So you named it. So now you have a name for it, and it's an it, and you're thinking about it all day long, and you want to get rid of it, but you're actually giving it energy. You're acknowledging it, and you're putting all of your energy. How much of your energy, how much of your time are you putting into uh, uh, a process that's going on systemic wide that happens to have, it's a tree, and one of the apples are there. There's other apples over here. Okay, so the apple has many trees, but you're focused on this one. So in other words, you're feeding it, giving it energy, all that. You have to understand that the universe is energy, and you're giving it energy, and you're giving it, and you've named it, and all this sort of stuff. All right, you turn that energy around to healing. Turn that energy around to restoring balance, living healthy. Just turn that energy around, and when you wind up in this place called health, which you can only arrive at by healthy living. There's not another way. There is not another. You can't buy it. It's not in a pill. It's not in an IV. Healthy living. When you arrive there, and you're in a condition of health, which is a consequence of living within our biological requirements, satisfying our biological needs and psychological needs. There won't be any masses. There won't be any depression. There won't be any insomnia. There won't be any swollen joints. Or, when we're talking about health, we're talking about the whole body. We're not talking about the health of my knee or my third toe on my left foot. We're not. All right. So Leg, join drlodi.com, join the CFC group, and let's resolve this. All right. And there's no it that caused it. And the one thing that was probably helping you was the BHRT, if it was done right, the biological hormone replacement therapy. If it was done correctly, and that's also another problem. It's usually not done correctly, because even postmenopausal women need to have their cycling. So you don't get the estrogen every day and the progesterone every day. Days 1 through 26, you're going to get the estrogen, whatever it is, estriol or biased, and then you're going to get the progesterone days 12 through 26. Anyway, you also got to look at DHEA. You also got to look at pregnenolone. You also have to look at your thyroid. You also have to look at your adrenals. So you have to remember, the body is an orchestra. It's not, you don't want to just tune up the woodwinds and not tune up the brass and not tune up the strings. Okay. Here's a question by Sham. How about someone with low HCl, hydrochloric acid, stomach acid, and reflux? Can we still do fasting? Thank you. Yes. Because first of all, keep in mind that almost everybody, if not everybody, by the time they reach 40 has a significant decline in the production of stomach acid, right? But not all of us are aware of it. But anyway, there's that. And the stomach acid has a very important functions, and most of them have to do with digestion. One of them is a barrier to not allow in microorganisms, parasites. But when you're fasting, you don't need the digestive functions of it, obviously. And the barrier function, actually, what happens when you leave something alone in the body, or an organism, stops. You got a sprained ankle or broken ankle. You have to elevate it, rest it, and it will heal. Healing is innate to the organism. So the same thing with the stomach. If the stomach is imbalanced, not healthy, The water fasting will allow that balance to be restored. All right. And the water is not, drinking water is not going to, excuse me, in any way decrease or increase acid production. It's not going to change it at all. So yeah, it has nothing, no effect on it. So this is a Zena. Oh, wait, let me, I got to do at least one Instagram. I have multiple meningiomas, facing another surgery in a week. Any suggestions? Wow, that is impossible to answer with that little, very little information. However, um, meningio is just for people who might not be aware. The meninges is a part of the. It actually, it's part of the central nervous system, and it is kind of like a webbing. Uh, that covers the brain and central nervous system. Um, but it has lots of functions. It's not just a covering. It has lots of functions. But anyway, so when you've got chronically fermenting cells in that area, you can develop what are called from meningeal oma. It means tumor. So meningiomas. So really, I don't know. My suggestion is get on to join the group right away, the CFC group. So, like, if you join it, go right now, join it. Then we can talk tomorrow, Monday, and Wednesday, because, of course, if excuse me, if a particular meningioma now is pressing on the brain, causing problems, then yeah, that may be the only answer. Um, so I don't really know the situation, but so let's say it is the answer, and you get that, but you don't want to keep going through it. Well, that's what we can get down to, and that's what we need to take care of, and that's what we can help you do. We can guide you to uh, do that, right? How to avoid having to get this again, and how to help resolve it, because we have to learn how to resolve it. We've got to resolve these things. Okay, we don't just hammer them. Wait, let me see. All right, here's a good. Okay, so regarding meningioma, please join right away so we can, because I don't. That's not enough information. I can't tell you what to do, but absolutely, there's things that can be done. There's another person from Instagram that says, "Hi, Dr. Lodi. My wife suffers from chronic eczema and is at her wit's end. We both are. Where to go? Have you seen water fast correct or cure eczema? Yeah, resolve it. In fact, I know one woman who had I think 15 years or so of eczema on her hands, and tried many different therapies, and um, to no avail. And I think 1 week water fast. I'm not sure how long. I can't remember how long she did. I think it was 1 week. It was resolved and has remained absent. Gone. Yeah. So absolutely, water fasting does it. You should get the book, the Therapeutic Fasting, a clinical manual for a clinical manual for uh, renewal and reset, metabolic renewal and reset. Get that, because it's a step by step, because there's a lot of things you want to get ready for and be prepared for. Um, the book, yeah. Do you work with binge eating disorder recovery for gut healing? Yes, absolutely. Very good. Excellent. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, eating disorders, all that. Yeah. Absolutely. Binge eating. And by the way, you know what? That's a very unrecognized problem for everyone. Not everyone, but the vast majority of people, because we're eating food, we're binge eating, you know, and by design, believe me, by design. You know, they had, you know, think tanks and these food scientists and all that, and they needed to find out what can they do to the food to make it addicting, and they found out the right combinations of salt, sugar, and fat. Excuse me, and that's where I don't know if you're not. Some of you may not remember, or you might not have been around at the time when I think the first I think it was Fritos, Frito Lay's. Was it Fritos or potato chips? I can't remember. It says, and the slogan was, "I bet you can't eat one. I bet you can't eat one because you can't eat one and go mm, 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 mm," and that's it. That was the goal, right? And it's all the fast food we have, and not even the fast food. You know, well, the stuff you have to still call that stuff fast food when you buy it in the freezer and you stick it in your microwave. I mean, can you imagine? And we're eating this stuff. Fast food, short life. Fast food, short life. Fast food, short life. Remember that fast food, short life. Fast food, short life. Fast, short, fast, short, fast, short. Real food, real life, authentic life. Oh, yeah. So, uh, anyway, so but absolutely work on binge eating because actually everyone is a binge eater, and when we talk about eating and binging and all that stuff, we've got to understand the difference between appetite and hunger because they're two different things. Hunger is a set of processes that arises out of physiology and is always appropriate, never harmful. Appetite arises from the mind and has nothing and no has no concern or care about um, physiology. It doesn't care. It doesn't care. I just gotta eat. I gotta have. And I can't get enough. Right? And you gotta remember, you're not even doing it anymore. It's just it's happening. You got these really entrenched neurological pathways and all. So yeah, yeah. And you can contact me for a consultation. You know, just go to drlodi.com and I'm happy to consult with you on that. What I think is that once we've had the consultation, we join the group so we can have ongoing resolution because consultation is like an introduction. It's like, okay, we got all the basics. Now we're going to get started, and then 3 weeks from now, you're going to have a question. You're going to have an issue. So anyway, that's that. Water fat. I mean, psoriasis. I had a fellow with like the worst case of psoriasis I've ever encountered. I mean, had to change the sheets every day. They were full with like a 3 to 5 centimeters of exfoliated skin. Uh, Cleared it up completely with water fasting. The eczema, yes. Uh, okay, here's Zena. I've started to answer this before. Zena is from Facebook. Would you share your opinion on getting into a ketogenic diet and changing the body's metabolism to potentially help someone who has gone through chemotherapy and has mitochondrial damage and long-term inflammation? There are different ideas about long-term ketogenic diet. All right, so all right, yeah, very good question, and I'm sure a lot of people are uh, uh, share your concerns and questions about this because there's a lot of misunderstood and misinformation and misunderstood. So the word ketogenic means keto is ketones, Genic means producing. So a diet that produces ketones. And ketones are the breakdown product of fat, or when fatty acids are metabolized. When fat is metabolized, it's metabolized into fatty acid and ketone bodies, right? Which is acetone, and uh, beta hydroxybutyrate. Okay, the three major ketone bodies. And by the way, in different forms, they'll turn out to be the short chain fatty acids that we absolutely need for health when they're not in that form. Yeah, very interesting. So, anyway, so a ketogenic diet would mean, so obviously what that means is um, eating lots of fat, so that you break it down and you get dietary sources of fat. All right, that's what it means. And you decrease your carbohydrate intake. So you have more fat than carbs. So, and depending on whatever ketogenic particular, whatever, but let's get terms correct. Ketogenic means you are eating a diet that's producing ketones. If the goal is to become ketotic, or to have a condition of ketosis, a condition of being in ketosis. So you don't say, am I ketogenic? Because people misunderstand that word. Am I in ketosis? There's ketone meters, and you can read it. And you do something called the GKI, the glucose to ketone index, which is a ratio. Anyway, so that's that. So, but here's the thing we need to understand, and that's that a healthy diet, you'll be in ketosis a good portion of the day anyway, in a healthy diet, because you will have stopped eating. You will eat at most 6 hours a day in the window, and you will not eat for 18 hours. And you will have stopped eating for 5 hours before sleep. So that whole period of not eating, you're going to be in ketosis. After a few hours, you stop eating, let's say at 4, probably by, depending on your age, maybe by midnight or so, you're starting to produce ketones. I mean, ketones in excess. And then, and then if you stopped eating at 4 and you're going to eat again at 10 a.m., you're going to have a few hours of ketosis. Now, here's the thing. People are under the false impression that you can eliminate glucose from your body, and you can't, because even after a long water fast of 41 days, you do a finger stick, the glucose is still normal, like in the 60s, because the body's making it. All right. So yeah, you can have more ketones than usual, but you're still going to be making glucose, because you need a certain amount of glucose, because glucose, like glutamine, is not only for fuel, it's also provides the raw materials to make new cells. Of our nutrients, fats, carbs, proteins. The carbs would be the glucose, and the proteins would be an amino acid called glutamine. Fat is the only one that is just purely for energy. Whereas glutamine provides carbon and nitrogen it's called anapleresis. It keeps running. It provides the raw materials for the tricarboxylic acid cycle, also called the Krebs cycle, which is that metabolic cycle in the middle of our mitochondria, which is why we have mitochondria that produce lots of energy, but they're also producing parts for function and cellular renewal and cellular construction and all that sort of thing. So it's the main factory in there, and the glutamine provides many of those required intermediates. So it's the only substance that's anapleretic, or doing that, replenishing. So, but the glucose is giving you the carbons, the carbon backbone for your body to make more amino acids, for your body to make nucleic acids, for your body to make fats. So, and cholesterol is absolutely necessary. Um, and so that's what it's doing, not just fuel. So in other words, you're never going to eliminate. You'll never eliminate the glutamine because it's the most abundant amino acid in our body, and we make it. We don't need to eat it. And so this whole idea of starving CFCs is not possible, because if you successfully starved CFCs, you would have successfully starved yourself. So now, in fact, I'm just finished. I hope that I'm done today. A paper I'm writing on this, because we really now know that CFCs use not just glucose and glutamine, but they also use fats, and they also use ketones, and they also use other amino acids, the branch chain amino acids, valine, isoleucine, and leucine. They use other amino acids. They use acetate. They use lactate. They're extremely flexible metabolically. And that flexibility is due to the tissue of origin, not to the type of CFC, type of cancer. There's no such thing. There's only one type of CFC, and that's chronically fermenting cells. Now, the doorway into chronic fermentation is through mitochondrial damage or dysfunction. The cell has to ferment. So once that happens, and then it starts to, become better at it. It's endowed with the metabolic equipment that it had from the tissue of origin. So if it came from fat tissue, of course it's going to be able to use fats, fatty acids and ketones, of course, and all sorts of stuff. And if it came from, so ovary, because ovaries are near fats and stuff like so. Breasts are in fat, so what we thought we knew about the metabolism of CFCs is really not what we know anymore. So anyway, Zena, look out. I'm going to be releasing this article soon. It's a long, it's an article. I don't know what else to call it. But it's very important because it changes the whole idea of what we're going to do with it. How are we going to deal with this situation? And so instead of trying to become ketogenic or whatever it is, eat healthy. And if you eat healthy, you are, because remember, we made up the word ketogenic. We made up the word ketosis. All of these things are processes of health, of life, of biology. We've named them. Okay, but by healthy eating, you're eating nutrient-dense food. You're getting all your nutrients. You're eating it, probably hopefully in a nice environment, and you're just devoting your time to the eating, and you're tasting, and you're really eating. You're there for the experience. You're not watching TV or playing with your phone or anything. And then you get all the nutrients you need. Wow. And now you don't need to eat because you've done it. And that's the whole idea. So you've eaten, you've satisfied your nutrient and energy requirements. So now you don't need to eat. And that's what would be healthy. And then you're going to wind up, part of that metabolic process is you'll be in a state of ketosis, which means you'll be, eliminating excesses of fats and other toxins, and you'll be restoring. So in other words, eating in a healthful, not only what we eat, but when we eat, our dietary habits. So if we can think of eating as terms of volume, frequency, and quality, and in that order of significance, decrease the volume first of all, then manage the frequency and make that frequency, within a 6-hour window, 4-hour window better. And then not eat for that, either 18 to 20 hours, and stop the eating 5 hours before sleep. Go to sleep early. 98% of all problems are gone. Just doing that. And you're eating human food, Now, if you're in a very severe condition, you can't just do that. We've got to do other things. We can't just rely on that. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Do we have to do IVs? Sometimes we have to do surgery. We have to do chemo. Yeah, there's things we have to do at certain times, but we'll know that. All right. We'll know that. All right. And then, yeah. And so we keep in mind. So Again, ketogenic is what happens. We get a certain point of ketosis, but what we need nutritionally is we need at least 60% healthy fats in our diet for a multitude of reasons. All right. Um, yeah. It's interesting. I don't know where the term based came in, like plant based. See, for me, if I hear the word plant based, that means it's basically plants, but there can be other things. Or a meat based diet. So it's basically meat, but there can be other things. So I would just say a diet of plants or a diet of, mixed diet or something like that. But anyway, so a diet of plants, uh, uh, eaten, and eating, you got to eat wisely. You got to know because we no longer have access to instinct. And one of the great uh, uh, things to know, and if you at least join the health and healing group, is a healthy dietary regimen. Seeds, which seeds, nuts, nut butters, and all this sort of stuff. When do we eat them? How do we prepare them? And it's not hard to prepare them. It's much harder to prepare a meatloaf and mashed potato dinner than it is to prepare most uncooked food, raw foods. It's just that we don't know how, so it's a big learning curve. But can you imagine explaining to I don't know, an Aborigine who's not really been um, out of the bush, just never really been out. I don't know if they exist anymore. But explaining to them how to make a meatloaf dinner. Okay, so first you got to take the meat out of the freezer and you got to thaw it out. Then you got to get the potato. And it's like, or to anybody who's never done that, right? To an Eskimo. Uh, so, which we, and the things that we consider to be, second nature. Well, once you get into the habits, so I've got this sprouting, I've got this ready, I got this is in the dehydrator. So you come home from work and 15 minutes later you have a fantastic meal. But you just got to get into the rhythm of it. So yeah. So Zena, join. Let's see if we have one more question. Here's Peter. Your comment on ivermectin taken without knowing what parasites we have can make things worse. Not necessarily. But we may never know what parasites are in there, and and we may never know because if we don't have if we don't see them in the stool, we don't, you know, there's no other direct evidence of them. Then we may never know. But ivermectin has very broad spectrum. So do the benzimidazoles like mebendazole, fenbendazole, albendazole, triclobendazole, um, triclobenzole, um, and niclosamide. They're very broad spectrum, and that's why we use three different ones to make sure we get them. So you don't really have to know about them. And here, this is IVET. I have pancreatic insufficiency and have a cyst on my pancreas. IBS, irritable bowel syndrome issues too, no diarrhea. I don't want to do another CT with pancreatic protocol. Here, doing castor oil packs can get rid of the cyst. Okay, good. Don't focus on the cyst. You want to restore health. And right now, your pancreas is not working that well. So a cleanse, a good, healthy cleanse. And if you, and I would say a cleanse, do a juice cleanse. If you're well nourished enough, then we can begin on doing a water fast. But you can't do that until we've already. So I'm not sure of your condition. Pancreatic insufficiency that term can incorporate a lot of stuff. So Yvette, join one of our groups because this is a process we need to go through. It's not. I can't just say, okay, do this. There's no this. All right. But irritable bowel syndrome is just a dysbiosis. There's no thing called IBS. There's no thing called Crohn's. There's no thing called ulcerative colitis. Ulcerative colitis. There's no thing called SIBO. Right? These are just relative different dysbioses. All right, so that might be a big part. That is a big part because there's no distinctions here. So that's playing a major role in what's being called pancreatic insufficiency. But I've got to understand what that means, because are you not producing enzymes, or are your enzymes not being secreted? So anyway, you got to join the group because you've had this important question. It's got to be answered. Yeah. All right. Anyway, you guys, it's time. We've done it at the end. We had another wonderful day. I mean, for me, it's fun. I hope you guys have some fun with it, because I love it. I love answering your questions and stuff. And just want to just as a final reminder here, all conditions that we have that are deviate from health, the beginning of the journey to restoring health is to get rid of toxins. It's become the term detox. Okay. Secondly, so that's the beginning of the journey, and then the other one is, if you're already dealing with CFCs and you need help, 480-834-5414. Call an Oasis of Healing, and Oasis of Healing in Arizona. We've been there for a long time, and that's what we do. Happy to help you. If you need a month to clear up, to get your things straight, so please do that. And other than that, have a fantastic week. Watch out there, because Bill, Klaus, and that other, I don't know his name, and I'm glad I don't know his name, but all these other, they're insane. And then also, don't think that Elon is just an eccentric, interesting guy because he wants to put chips in your brain. And Bill, there's no. Anyway, so watch out for those guys. Have a wonderful day. Be healthy, and sawadee ka, namaste, and aloha to everyone.